So we started with the definitions in the last lecture. हमने दो तीन definitions को just ऐसे ही पढ़ा था और उसके बाद में उसको हमने छोड़ दिया था, ज़्यादा डिटेल में हमने कवर नहीं किया था. We had covered the definition of alter, करेक्ट. हमने alter के definition को डिस्कस किया था. हमने फिर आर्टिकल्स को भी डिस्कस किया था. We had also read the definition of articles, करेक्ट. तो ये दोनों डेफिनेशंस को कवर करने के बाद अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं और हम नए डेफिनेशंस को डिस्कस करते हैं और सीक्वेंस में चलते हैं. लेट्स गो इन सीक्वेंस एंड वी डिस्कस ऑल द डेफिनेशंस. सो बेसिकली इफ यू रिमेंबर, मैंने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर के वेबसाइट से सब चीज़ों को, मतलब जो आपका वो डेफिनेशंस था उसको पूरे को कॉपी करके यहाँ पे मैंने वर्ड फाइल में पेस्ट कर दिया. एट द एंड ऑफ द लेक्चर मैं इसको पीडीएफ में कन्वर्ट करके आप लोगों को दे दूंगा. Later on, if you want, you can take print out of this. Also, just remember that when we are studying definitions here, the definitions are extremely important because throughout the act, right? If you see this, it's written here in this act, right? So throughout the Companies Act, unless the context otherwise requires, means if that particular section says something else, then it's a separate issue. Otherwise, the wordings would mean the same here, right? The wordings would mean the same here. यहाँ पे पहला definition जो हमारे पास है, this is the definition of abridged prospectus. Now tell me, what is a prospectus? What is a prospectus? आप prospectus किसको बोलते हो? Foundation के अंदर आपने इसको पढ़ा है. You have also studied accounts. What is prospectus? What is prospectus? So when the company has to issue shares, it issues prospectus. No, prospectus is not the preamble of company, right? Prospectus would be basically a document, right, which is used in the public issue. So whenever the company has to issue shares, right? So whenever the company has to issue the shares, the prospectus is issued by the company. And what does the prospectus contain? This prospectus contains the details about the company, right? Details of the company, right? Prospectus is what? It is offer or invitation to offer. What is prospectus? Is it offer or is it invitation to offer? What is prospectus called? Is it offer or invitation to offer? This is invitation to offer, right? So the prospectus is invitation to offer, right? Just a minute. Okay. So I have also logged in from the other device so that I can see the chat section. Okay, so I can see the chat section, so that will be comparatively easier for me. Right, so जब भी कंपनी को प्रोस्पेक्टस पब्लिक इशू करना है तब प्रोस्पेक्टस इशू होगा एंड दिस इज डेफिनेटली इनविटेशन टू ऑफर, राइट. सो एब्रिज प्रोस्पेक्टस क्या रहता है? सो एब्रिज प्रोस्पेक्टस इज बेसिकली अ मेमोरेंडम व्हिच कंटेन्स द salient features. Okay, so it only contains the salient features. So ये detailed नहीं होगा, it will only contain the salient features. So if someone asks you what is abridged prospectus, so your answer would be abridged prospectus is a document which contains the salient features of the prospectus and public issue के time पे. So when we do chapter number 3, that is your issue of shares, their abridged prospectus will come into the picture, right? Further, if you see, the second definition that we have is the accounting standards. Now tell me, accounting standards is what? What is accounting standards in general? In general, okay, so Vineet has asked what is salient. So salient means it does not contain details, right? Salient is it does not contain the details, not detailed, right? Salient is not the detailed one. Basic, right? Sometimes you get what are the salient features of the company. So you're not getting in depth of the company. You're just telling the person what is the company and all those things you are just telling, right? So the next definition that you have here is the definition of accounting standard. Now, what is accounting standard? What is accounting standard? So just see, whenever a company has to prepare the financial statements, they follow accounting standards. Yes or no? Now, what is accounting standard in general? Forget what is written here. What is accounting standard? What is accounting standard? What is accounting standard? Rules. Okay. Is it mandatory? Are standards mandatory? Are standards mandatory? Yes, standards are mandatory. But who mandates? Who issues accounting standards? Who issues accounting standards? Who issues accounting standards? ICAI. Okay, so till now ICAI used to issue accounting standards, but now the accounting standards are not issued by ICAI. The accounting standards are issued by some other party. Now just see, a standard which has been issued by ICAI, can it bind the company? Answer is no. Accounting standards become mandatory because of this particular section. Accounting standards become mandatory because of this particular section, section 133. This makes the accounting standard mandatory. If section 133 would not have been there, we could have said that accounting standard is not mandatory. It gives the legal recognition. Section 133 gives the legal recognition to the accounting standards. Now, accounting standards, earlier it was issued by ICAI, right? And along with it was issued by NACAS. Now, what is the full form of NACAS? So all this is not relevant for your exam, but just you should know, National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards, right? So ICAI in consultation with NACAS, they used to make the accounting standards, but now you have altogether new authority named as NFRA, or we people also call it as NAFRA. What is NFRA? It is National Financial Reporting Authority, right? National Financial Reporting Authority. This is called as NAFRA. So with effect from 1st October 2018, okay, NAFRA is there, and NAFRA now issues the accounting standards. Now, how many types? So basically, you'll study about NAFRA in your, obviously we'll study bit in Companies Act also, but in detail you are going to study in your audit. Now NAFRA, you'll find two types of accounting standard. One is accounting standard, and the other one that you will study is Ind AS, right? This you are going to study in your accounts paper. Some in accounts and some you are going to study in your final, in your subject called as financial reporting FR. Okay. Now you have alteration we have already covered. Now you have appellate tribunal. Now appellate tribunal, before you understand appellate tribunal, you need to understand appellate is basically you do a appeal, right? Now appeal from whom? So most of the matters in the Companies Act, you go to a special tribunal called as NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. From National Company Law Tribunal, the matter goes to NCLAT, which is called as National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, or you call it as Appellate Tribunal. So tribunal means NCLT, Appellate Tribunal means NCLAT, and from here the case goes to Supreme Court. So if you see, there is a recent judgment that has come out in the Companies Act, a major judgment. Can anyone name that judgment? It was there in news for quite a long time. There is a judgment which is just being made by the Supreme Court related to company. Have you read that? Are you aware of that judgment? So it was the judgment No? Okay. So it was the judgment where a fight had happened between Cyrus Mistry and Ratan Tata. You know Ratan Tata, right? You all know Ratan Tata. You all know Cyrus Mistry. Who is Cyrus Mistry? Right? So there was a dispute between Tata Group and Cyrus Mistry because Cyrus Mistry was removed and he believed that his removal or his termination was not correct. So they first went to NCLT where the judgment was given in favor of Tatas. Then they went to NCLAT where the judgment was given in favor of Cyrus Mistry, and they went to Supreme Court and the judgment was given in favor of Mr. In favor of Tata Group. Okay, so this is the appellate tribunal. Just remember NCLT, NCLAT and Supreme Court. जैसे आपके पास होता है डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट एंड सुप्रीम कोर्ट, same way here. Now, sir, why do we have National Company Law Tribunal? Why do we have National Company Law Appellate Tribunal? For the simple reason, before NCLT, right, this was established in 2016 only. So before NCLT, the matters used to go to High Court. Now in High Court, you have different judges, okay, and all those judges, those who are handling criminal cases, other civil cases, marriage law, all those things. So the cases used to take a lot of time to get resolved. Therefore, in the Companies Act, a special provision was made where we said that let's have a dedicated tribunal. Now, what is tribunal? Tribunal is not a court, it is like a court, right? So, there was a need that we should have a tribunal, and in that tribunal, will have all the company law cases. So all the cases which you study under company law, any dispute under the company law, let's say you are not getting uh, your name is not getting registered in the company, or any violation which is done by the company has done fraud, operation, mismanagement, anything. So for that case, you will go to company law tribunal. That is your National Company Law Tribunal. And I'll tell you the best part about NCLT is even chartered accountant, those who are not lawyers, even they can go and appear in NCLT. So tomorrow when you become chartered accountant, you can go and very well represent your client at NCLT, NCLT. Of course, for Supreme Court, you need an advocate, right? But for NCLT and NCLT, you can go there. Even I'm not a lawyer, I'm a practicing company secretary, but still I go to NCLT and appear before the tribunal on behalf of my client. So this is one area where you can again work. Next is the definition of the articles. This we have already covered, right? Next is the associate company. So just understand associate company. There is one thing which is important here. When I say associate company is in relation to another company. Okay. So there is one company, let's say A, and there is another company B. So if A is the associate company, A is associate company in relation to the other company, that is B company. Okay. In which means a company in which the other company. Okay. So in which the other company. So we are talking about B Limited. Okay. Associate company in relation to another company. So first understand associate company is in relation to the other company. So A is the, so if A is that company, okay, if A is that company, the other company, that is B, has significant influence. So if B has significant influence over A, then in that case A is associate company of B. Got it? If B has significant influence over A, then A is associate company of B. Is B also associate of A? Is, can I say B is also associate of A? No, right? Just remember, no. So which is the associate company here? It's only A, and A is associate of B. So if B has significant Sorry, I think there is some alignment issue. So let me just write it here. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so I'll write it here. It's better. Right. So for the definition of associate company, just understand. So there is one company, company A, and there is another company, that's company B, right? So if B has significant influence, if B has significant influence over A, then in that case, A is associate of B, right? So this statement is correct, but you cannot say B is also a associate company of A. This is incorrect. So there is lot of confusion between the students, right? Amongst the students, they say that both of them are associate of each other. No, answer is no. Both of them are not associate of each other. Only A will be associate of B. Now, how do you determine this significant influence? This is the second question. This is the second important question, that how do you determine this significant influence? So this significant influence is being given by way of an explanation, right? So if you see the explanation, you'll find significant influence has been defined there, right? So if you see significant influence means a control of at least 20%. There is a control of at least 20% of the total voting power, or control or participation in the business decision under an agreement. Okay. Then there is also one addition part which says that, but which is not a subsidiary company of the company having such influence and includes a joint venture company. So 2 points is there. One is that joint venture, okay, a joint venture company is a associate company, but a subsidiary company is not an associate company. Now what does this mean? So in foundation also, you all must have studied the different types of company. So one is the holding company, then you have subsidiary company, and third one is the associate company, right? So holding company and subsidiary company, the relationship comes with the control, or it comes with majority voting rights, right? And majority voting right comes with more than 50%, more than 50%. But the same thing with associate company comes with 20% or more, right? If A Limited, if A Limited holds up to 19.99% voting rights in B Limited, there is no relation. There is no relation. But if A Limited holds 20% to 50% in B Limited, देन कौन किसका एसोसिएट बना? कौन किसका एसोसिएट बना? इसमें कौन किसका एसोसिएट बनेगा? इन दिस केस हु विल बी एसोसिएट ऑफ बूम? Who will be associate of whom? B will be associate of A. Very good, Yash. Right. So I've just shuffled the name. Right. So in that case, B is a associate company of A, but A is nothing for B. All right. Now, if I say A holds more than 50% voting rights, more than 50% voting rights in B, then in that case, B is subsidiary of A and A is holding of B. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? So we'll study the definition of holding and subsidiary company, but just be very clear of this part that in case of associate company, only one is the associate of other, the other does not have any relation, and also the joint venture. Okay, let's go ahead and read the next definition. Then you have the definition of auditing standards. So who issues auditing standards? Who issues auditing standards? Auditing standards are again issued by ICAI. Sorry, the auditing standards again they are issued by ICAI, but now the power has been given to NFRA. So basically ICAI will make the auditing standards, then they are going to give these standards to NAFRA. NAFRA will review it, and at the end NAFRA is going to issue the auditing standards. Now, is auditing standards mandatory? Is compliance of auditing standards mandatory? As chartered accountants, why? Why so? Why so? Because section 143 gives them the legal recognition. So just like how accounting standards get their legal recognition under section 133 in the Companies Act, same way the auditing standards get the legal recognition in section 143. Got it? Got it? This is clear? Then just see, you have authorized share capital. So the definition of authorized share capital is given. So what is authorized share capital? So the authorized share capital is the capital which is authorized by the memorandum of association. So there are two charter documents of the company. One is the articles of association. Another is the memorandum of association. So memorandum of association is one document which has got how many clauses? It has got 6 clauses, right? Out of these 6 clauses, there is one clause called as the capital clause, right? There's one called as the capital clause, and in this capital clause, the authorized share capital is mentioned. Now, what is authorized share capital technically? It is the maximum amount of share capital the company can raise. Now, when I say maximum amount of share capital, the authorized share capital will always be divided like this. It will always be divided like this, the number of shares into the face value, right? डेजा वू फील हो रहा है सर? फाउंडेशन में भी ऐसा ही पढ़ा था, राइट? बिल्कुल डेजा वू फील हो रहा है, राइट? सो जस्ट सी, authorized share capital is what? It is the number of shares into face value. Okay, then you have the definition of, so if someone asks you from where you get the face value of the company, just mention from the capital clause, right? Because the face value will be derived how, based on how the authorized share capital is divided into, correct? So I know you all have covered this in foundation as well, but still I'm just doing a brush up of this, right? When we discuss about the authorized share capital, the authorized share capital is always written like this. It is the number of shares into the face value. So for example, if the authorized share capital is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, So this 1 lakh rupees will be mentioned that how this 1 lakh rupees is divided. So they'll further mention that this is divided into, let's presume, 1 lakh shares of rupees 1 each, or this will be mentioned like this: 10,000 shares of rupees 10 each. Got it? So whatever way the authorized share capital is, that will be divided into, so the face value would be derived like this. So if someone asks you where do you get the face value of the company, just clearly mention that it is in the authorized share capital, which is mentioned in the memorandum of association. Then you have the banking company, the definition of banking company. So the banking company means the company which is defined in the Banking Regulation Act. So last class we discussed about the Banking Regulation Act. So it's here. Then you have the board of directors or the board, which collectively means the board of directors of the company. So we often get to hear this term, board of directors of the company. So what do you actually mean by the board of directors of the company? It clearly means that, see, there are people, in case of company, you'll find, right, in case of company, you'll find two set of people. One is the investors. They are also called as the owners. They are also called as the shareholders. They are also called as the members of the company. So one set of people is this. The other set of person which you are going to get is the management of the company, right? These people, they just invest money. They do not participate in the day-to-day business, right? So they do not participate in the day-to-day business. They do not participate in the day-to-day business. And then there is a management. Management is the board of directors, right? Now, what is board of directors? So individually, for example, this is Yash, okay? And let's say this is Ronak. So Yash and Ronak both are directors of the company, director 1, director 2. Collectively, they will be called as the board of directors. Got it? Individually, Yash is a director. Individually, Ronak is director of the company. But collectively, they will be both will be called as the board of directors. Now, who are going to appoint these board of directors? These are the people who are appointed by the owners of the company. They are appointed by the owners. They are appointed by the shareholders of the company, right? The members of the company, they come into the annual general meeting of the company. They appoint them as the board of director, and they are the one who take care of the day-to-day business, right? It's the management who handles the day-to-day business, right? Also, one more thing, these board of directors, can they be also the owners of the company? Can I say the board of directors are also the owners of the company always? Can I say they are always the board of directors are always the members of the company? Answer is no. The board of directors may or may not be the members of the company. So just remember, the board of directors or the individual director, they may or they may not be the members of the company, the shareholders of the company. So it's not mandatory that they'll have to be. No, Vinith, they don't have to buy. So in the 1956 Act, this was true. In the 1956 Act, director had to buy. Director had to acquire shares of the company. These were called as qualification shares. But in the 2013 Act, not needed. They are not needed. Okay. Let's see the next definition that we have. We have the definition of body corporate, right? So it says that body corporate or the corporation includes, just see, it includes a company incorporate outside India, but does not include a cooperative society and any other body corporate which central government by notification specify in this behalf. Now tell me, when you have written, it's written here central government, they're talking about whom? Which government they are talking about? When they say central government, it's which government they are talking about? You, a lot of the places in the Companies Act, you'll find this term central government. So what does this central government means? The central government means Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, remember? Now Ministry of Corporate Affairs has further delegated the authority to regional director. We'll see who is the regional director, right? So it's the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, central government. So if it's written here central government, doesn't mean हर बात पे मोदी जी को बोलो, ठीक है? बट ये ध्यान रखना, जहां पे भी कंपनीज एक्ट में सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लिखा है, दिस मींस मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर, एंड द पावर ऑफ मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर इन द कंपनीज एक्ट, right, to notify and all those things, it has been delegated to the regional director. Now just see the definition of body corporate again. So when I say body corporate includes a company incorporated outside India, but does not include a cooperative society and any other body corporate, which the Ministry of Corporate Affairs say that no, this is not to be considered as a body corporate, even though that is actually in actual it is a body corporate. But again, central government may say that no, don't consider this company as a body corporate. Now tell me one thing, can I say a company is a body corporate? A company which is incorporated in India, a company which is incorporated in India, is it a body corporate? Vineet is saying no. Why? Why so? Prathamesh is saying yes. Okay. Both of you need to answer why Ujjwal is saying yes. Is a company incorporated in India a body corporate? You need to answer this question. Incorporated in India, so it will be a body corporate. Okay. Vineet, you can unmute yourself and you can answer. You can unmute yourself and you can answer. Body corporate. Mic is not working. Okay. So what I suppose your logic comes from here, that a body corporate includes a company incorporated outside India, correct? But a company will be incorporated in India. Therefore, it is not a body corporate. I suppose this is your justification, correct? And sir, last class you had mentioned that whatever is written in the definition, you have to just go by that. We don't have to say what we feel. So here the correct answer is yes, it is a body corporate. A company which is incorporated in India, it is a body corporate, but you will not find the answer in the definition. You will have to check section 9. So when we check section 9 of the Companies Act, that point of time, you'll get the answer. Section 9 of the Companies Act mentions that once a company is incorporated, right, it becomes a body corporate. All right. Is this clear? But otherwise you were correct if you said that a company is not a body corporate? Because as per definition, it is not. It is as per section 9. So just remember this when we study section number 9. Next definition that we have is books and paper. Now, books and paper definition is again, it includes all the books of accounts, deeds, voucher writing. So this is a basic definition, all your reports. Then again, your books of accounts also contains all the records which the company make, right? This is basically your cash account, correct? All sales and purchase, sales book, purchase book, the balance sheet of the company, right? And also the cost records. So under section 148, this is talking about the cost records. So not all companies will have to do this. Certain manufacturing company, they'll also have to maintain the cost record. They'll have to justify that to manufacture a particular product, what all costings have been done, especially the essential commodities, right? Or especially the medicine pharmaceutical industry. So if Cipla says that this medicine costs 10 rupees, they need to maintain a record that why it is costing 10 rupees and why not rupees 8 or why not rupees 12, why it is costing rupees 10. So they'll mention that the raw material cost is, let's say, 4 rupees, then the import duty we pay is 2 rupees, and then further processing cost is another 4 rupees. So this way they'll have to mention that why and how the amount costs. So they need to mention this. So the cost records will also become the part of your books of accounts. Then again, you have branch office. So branch office is a very easy definition. Branch office means the office which has been defined as the branch office of the company. So all you need to just mention that this is the branch office of the company. So any establishment, right, will be called as the branch office. Then you have the called up capital, the definition of called up capital. So again, if we go through the authorized, issued, all those capital. So what is going to start? You'll start with the authorized share capital, right? What is the authorized share capital? It is the maximum number of shares which the company can issue, right? The maximum number of shares that company can issue. This is called as the authorized share capital. Post authorized share capital, you will get the issued share capital, correct? So what is issued share capital? It is out of the shares which is authorized by the company. It is the number of shares that company has issued. The number of shares that the company has issued. This is the issued share capital. After issued share capital, what will come? After the shares are being issued, what happens? What happens? Public, what does public do? Public subscribes, correct? So you get the subscribed share capital. You will have the subscribed share capital. Subscribed share capital is what? It is out of the issued share capital, the number of shares company has subscribed, right? Once the public has subscribed, now what company would do? Now company will be calling the portion, the issue price, right? So we'll have the called up capital. So what is called up capital? It is the amount called towards the shares subscribed. And then at last we have the paid up share capital, and this is actually the amount paid by shareholder, that is called the amount that is called and on which the shareholder has paid, you get the paid up share capital. So that's where you have the definition of the called up share capital. Okay, so this is the definition of the called up share capital. Let's go ahead and see some more definitions. You have the definition of charge. Now charge is altogether a new chapter only for you. Okay, there is a separate chapter which is only dedicated to charge. So what does a charge means? Basically the Hindi word of charge would be गिरवी, करेक्ट? वो बाबू भैया को गिरवी रख के गए थे ना, फिर हेरा फेरी में बाबू भैया को गिरवी रखा था ना, चार्ज, राइट। सो आपने बेसिकली क्या कर दिया, बाबू भैया के ऊपर चार्ज क्रिएट कर दिया। नाउ चार्ज, द सिंपल लॉजिक और द सिंपल डेफिनेशन वुड बी दैट you have created a security interest. So here the company is, I would say, a borrower. Okay, the company has a factory, right? The company is the owner of this factory. Now there is a bank which has given loan to the company, right? So the bank has given loan to the company, and while giving this loan, bank has created charge on this, right? So the charge is created. Now what is going to happen with with this charge? What is going to be the impact if the company defaults? Okay, if the company defaults, bank can sell the factory, or bank can also take over the factory. Bank can lease out, etc., do anything to recover the money. Is charge clear? Is charge clear? So you see, you'll find a detailed version. So charge means an interest. Okay, it means an interest or a lien which is created on the property or the assets of the company or any of its undertaking. What is undertaking? Undertaking is their business, factory, right? Both as security and includes a mortgage, right? So this is charge. Now why charge is important? Because whenever company creates a charge, there are compliances which needs to be followed. Company has to inform to the registrar of company. Do you understand ROC? Registrar of company. So company will have to inform the registrar of company. Company will also have to uh, take the approval from the shareholders. So all those things needs to be covered there. Then you have the definition. That's your definition. The definition of chartered accountant. So any person who is the member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and holding a valid certificate of practice will be called as the chartered accountant. Then you have the definition of chief executive officer. So if you want to be the chief executive officer, you can be the CEO of the company. Is there any qualification associated with the CEO? Like if you want to be the auditor of the company, you need to be a chartered accountant. If you want to be the company secretary of the company, you need to be a company secretary, member with ICSI. To become the chief executive officer, do you need any degree? Do you need any degree? If you want to become, no, there is no degree which has been mentioned. You can be the CEO of the company. Same goes for the CFO. Can you be the CFO? Can I appoint Munim ji as the CFO of my company? You understand Munim ji? हम आपके अकाउंट सबने देखा होगा, उसमें वो मुनीम जी अकाउंट्स करते थे ना, उहु उहु। सो मैं मुनीम जी को CFO बनाना चाहता हूं, बना सकता हूं? आंसर इज यस. देयर इज नो qualification which has been mentioned, at least not in the Companies Act. SEBI regulations you will find for the listed company, but otherwise, who is a CFO? So any person who is appointed as the CFO of the company is a CFO. Any person who is appointed as the CEO of the company becomes the CEO. Now, just remember one thing, that the chief executive officer is also the officer of the company. The chief executive officer is also the officer of the company. Is CFO also the officer of the company? Is CFO also the officer of the company? क्या आप सीएफओ को भी एक कंपनी का ऑफिसर बोलोगे? डेफिनेशन के हिसाब से देखो, नाम में ऑफिसर है, बट हम आगे देखेंगे ऑफिसर का डेफिनेशन, विल ऑल्सो गेट द डेफिनेशन ऑफ ऑफिसर, राइट? देयर विल सी दैट is CFO also considered as the officer of the company or not, or CFO has been given a special place, or some other place CFO has been given a designation, right? So this is the definition of CEO and CFO. Then you have the definition of the company. Okay, Vinith, I had not just used this word, key managerial personnel. We will, when we will study the definition, we'll have the definition of KMP also, key managerial personnel. So there we'll understand what is KMP, right? I purposely skipped this, right? Okay, so because I'm just going by the sequence. So then you have a easy definition, that is the definition of a company, which says that the company which is incorporated under this act or any of the previous act. This we covered in the last lecture also. Then we have the definition of company which is limited by guarantee. So what do you mean by company limited by guarantee? And then you have a company limited by shares. So just see, the very basic concept of a company is, when we discuss the very basic concept of company, it is that company has a limited liability. Does company always have a limited liability? No. Why so? The members of the company may have unlimited liability, right? So in that case, we call the company as unlimited company. But then we also have where the liability of the members is limited, right? Now this can be limited either by the shares, or this can be limited by guarantee. When I say the company is limited by shares, this means the company has a share capital and the liability is limited to the unpaid calls. On the shares that you have subscribed. So you have subscribed 10 shares. Your maximum liability is the calls on those 10 shares. Once you have paid the calls on those 10 shares, your liability becomes zero. When we discuss about the guarantee, the liability is limited to the amount guaranteed. Right? The difference between the two types of company is the liability arises during the life of the company. And when we say company limited by guarantee, the liability arises when the company is wound up. Okay. So I'll also write one more thing here. The liability arises during the life of company, right? During the life of company, and limited by guarantee. This will be at the time of winding up. At the time of winding up. Okay. Then we have company limited by guarantee, also having share capital, and one without share capital. So you'll also get that. But broadly, if you discuss, the company has its members and the liability of the members is either unlimited or the liability of the members is limited. If it is unlimited, then you say this is an unlimited company. And if the liability is limited, you say the liability of the members, if it is limited, you say it is limited by shares or it is limited by guarantee. Okay. Okay. Then you have Ronak has asked section 2 subsection 21. So section 2 subsection 21 is your company limited by guarantee, and then section 2 subsection 22 is the limited company limited by shares. Just see this company limited by guarantee, and this is company limited by shares. So company limited by guarantee means a company having a liability of its member limited by the memorandum. 91 is unlimited. Yes. Yes. So we'll reach there. We'll reach there. And once we are also done with all the definitions, we'll cover the different types of companies summed up together, right? How we did in foundation also. We'll do that. 92 is unlimited, not 91. It is 92, which is unlimited. Okay. So let's see. Again, the company which is limited by guarantee means a company having a liability of its member limited by the memorandum to such amount as the members respectively undertake to contribute to the assets of the company in the event of being wound up. So this is there in the event of being wound up. So when the company is limited by guarantee, it is the liability arises in the event of being wound up. But when I say company limited by shares, in that case, the company having the liability of its member limited by the memorandum, if any, with respect to the unpaid shares held by them. That's it. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Contribute to the assets? Okay. So just see. Let's make a balance sheet of the company. Here you have the liability side and here you have the asset side. What happens when a share is issued? What happens when a share is issued? Let's say, Vinith, you have taken shares of rupees 1000. What is going to happen? What impact will it make in the company? What impact will it be there in the company? On the liability side, you will have equity share capital 1000, and on the asset side, you will find cash rupees 1000. Correct? Now, why cash 1000 is here? Because you have contributed or you have subscribed for this equity share capital. So basically, this is the source of funds and this is the application of funds. ये सोर्स और एप्लीकेशन है. So जब आप इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल में कंट्रीब्यूट करते हो, you are contributing to the assets of the company, right? Okay, let's go back. Then you have a new definition, that is the definition of company liquidator. Yeah, so company liquidator means a person who is appointed by a tribunal. Now which tribunal it is talking about? यहाँ पे कौन से ट्राइब्यूनल का बात हो रहा है? Which tribunal we just discussed about? It is NCLT. So earlier, winding up cases used to go to High Court. Now the winding up cases, अभी अगर आपको कंपनी को बंद करना है, you no longer go to High Court, you go to National Company Law Tribunal, and then a liquidator will be appointed. Liquidator एक तरीके से आप समझो, he is the person who is appointed by the court, now by the tribunal. He'll go, he will take the assets of the company, right? He'll take control of the assets of the company. He's going to sell all the assets. He's going to pay all the liabilities. And then at last, he's going to pay to the equity shareholders if any money is left. Then he will again go to NCLT and say, the work is done. And then the NCLT is going to pass the winding up order. And we say that the company is wound up, rather dissolution. So just quickly, I'll give you a brief up about it, how the company is wound up. Though in detail you are going to study about winding up in your CA final, and the accounting part you are going to cover in your CA intermediate only in your accounts chapter. Okay, so just see, if a company is to be wound up, so the company will go to NCLT. Thereafter, NCLT is going to pass a order. Okay, this is going to be order number 1. And why this order is passed? This order is order of winding up. So as soon as order of winding up is passed, okay, you will find liquidator appointed. This liquidator is appointed. Once this liquidator is appointed, liquidator will take control of the company. Thereafter, he is going to sell the assets, pay to the creditors and to the shareholders, and then he will file a report to NCLT. Okay. Thereafter, NCLT will pass order number 2. This is basically the order of dissolution. Okay. The order of dissolution is the final end of the company. This is the final end of the company. Got it? Is this clear? The process is clear. So now do you understand where does this liquidator come into picture and how does this person? So the person will be appointed by the tribunal and again as per the provisions of. So I said you are going to study in your intermediate level till section 148. So section 275, basically the winding up section starts from section 271, which is again part of your CS final syllabus. Now then you have me in the Companies Act, that is company secretary. So company secretary or the secretary means the company secretary as defined in the Company Secretaries Act 1980. And then the company secretary in practice is the person who is appointed, basically having the certificate of practice. Like I am company secretary in practice. I am not a company secretary. I am a company secretary in practice as per Companies Act. Why? Because I am not appointed. Just see this. Often we make the things very generic. So company secretary is again in relation to the company. So company secretary means a person who is appointed by the company to perform the functions of the company secretary. Okay. So can I appoint any person as the company secretary of the company, or the person has to be the member of ICSI? Can I appoint anyone? So this definition looks like the definition of CEO and CFO. So just see, we saw that CEO, person appointed as the CFO, CEO, the person appointed as the or the officer of the company as designated by it. Why? Why it is to be the member of ICSI? Because it's given here means a company secretary as defined in the Company Secretaries Act. So first, to become the company secretary of the company, I need to be the company secretary under the Companies Act. And then the company also needs to appoint to me and provide me the functions, and and give me the functions of the company secretary to perform the functions of the company secretary. Then I'll be called as the company secretary. But so as per Companies Act, who am I? Am I company secretary? I am company secretary in practice, or I am both? CS Anand Kankani is a company secretary. He is a company secretary in practice, or both. Ronak is saying both. Saloni both. Ujjwal both. Vinith both. Just read it again. Just read it again. Yash is saying in practice. Ritik is also saying both. Yash is correct. Nemin is also correct. In practice, just understand, one person cannot be both. Okay, one person cannot be both. If you are appointed as the company, appointed by the company to perform the functions of company secretary, then you can't be in practice. And if you are in practice, you can't be appointed as the company secretary of the company. Okay, so just remember that a person who is company secretary in practice and a person who is the company secretary of the company, there are two different people. Got it? Let's go ahead, and we have the definition of contributory. So again, this definition will hold a importance when you study. Is this clear? These two definitions? Are these two definitions clear? Company secretary and company secretary in practice? राइट ये सब मैं इतने छोटे छोटे पॉइंट्स आपको क्यों बता रहा हूँ बिकॉज एग्जाम में ऐसा क्वेश्चन आपको नहीं मिलेगा बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू डेवलप इज लॉ को रीड करके आप कैसे उसको इंटरप्रेट करते हो सो प्राइमा फेसी अगर आप देखो तो आप यही बोलोगे हाँ सर जो कंपनी सेक्रेटरी इन प्रैक्टिस है वो कंपनी सेक्रेटरी भी है बट एज पर कंपनीज एक्ट कंपनी सेक्रेटरी कौन होगा वही इंसान होगा जिसको कंपनी ने अपॉइंट किया है टू परफॉर्म द फंक्शंस ऑफ कंपनी सेक्रेटरी तो अगर आप एक सीएस हो आप क्वालिफाइड मेंबर हो आप प्रैक्टिस में भी नहीं हो आप किसी कंपनी के अंदर किसी जैसे असिस्टेंट कंपनी सेक्रेटरी होता है या एसोसिएट कंपनी सेक्रेटरी होता है ऐसा जूनियर कंपनी सेक्रेटरी होता है आप उसकी तरह वहां पे काम कर रहे हो आप एक लीगल एग्जीक्यूटिव की तरह काम कर रहे हो then even if you are a member of ICSI you are not the company secretary because company secretary means वो जिसको कंपनी अपॉइंट करे कि yes this person is the company secretary and that person also has to be the member of ICSI okay but company secretary in practice is fine company secretary जिसके पास certificate of practice है then you also have the definition of contributory अब देखो don't read this definition just see contributory now we just read about the liability of the members of the company, right? So shares and by company limited by guarantee. So what is the maximum liability of a company which is limited by shares? It is basically the unpaid calls. And in case of company limited by guarantee, it is the amount which was guaranteed by the member of the company. Okay. And in case of unlimited company, so the liability is unlimited till the time the last creditors are not paid. The last rupee is not paid. Okay. Now, we have the definition of contributory. Okay. We have the definition of contributory. Now, what does contributory mean? Contributory means a person who has to contribute to the assets of the company, right? So, contributory is a person who contributes, right, to the assets of the company, to the assets of the company, right? But there is a catch. So if a company is just incorporated, right, and I'm purchasing the shares of the company, am I a contributory? See the definition. I have incorporated a company and I said that I'm going to buy 10 shares of the company. One share face value rupees 10. So I have to contribute 100 rupees to the company. Can I say, or can you say that I am a contributory? Got my question? Got my question? Neyman is saying no, Dhaval is saying no, Yash no, Saloni no. Why? Why you are saying this? Muskan has also said no. Vineet is also saying no. Why? Why like this? See, contributor is the person who contribute towards the assets of the company. Okay, Yash has answered that because the company is not winding up. Okay, so contributory will always be the person who is going to contribute. So person who is liable to contribute towards the assets in the event of winding up. If the company is wound up, which means at the end of the company. So if I say I am a company, I am a person who is the member of a company limited by guarantee. Am I a contributory? Am I a contributory? मेरे क्वेश्चन को ध्यान से देखना, रेदर सुनना. अभी तो मैं बोलूंगा आपको. जस्ट सी, आई एम अ मेंबर ऑफ अ कंपनी लिमिटेड बाय गारंटी. कैन यू से आई एम अ contributory? I'll write a question here. अरे वाह, yes, why? So I write a question here. Yash is a member of company limited by guarantee. Is he a contributory? Is he a contributory? Answer is yes. Correct. Yes. Why? Because he is liable to contribute. Okay. Because at the time of contribute, he'll have to. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल करेक्ट. अब आपको समझ में आ रहा है लॉ को कैसे पढ़ना है. लॉ को कैसे पढ़ना है, राइट? क्या कंट्रीब्यूटरी बनने के लिए कंपनी का वाउंड अप होना जरूरी है? कंट्रीब्यूटरी बनने के लिए कंपनी का वाउंड अप होना जरूरी है कि कंपनी बंद होगा तभी कंट्रीब्यूटरी बनोगे? आंसर इज यस. ओके, आंसर इज यस. जब कंपनी बंद होगा आप तभी कंट्रीब्यूटरी बनोगे, नहीं तो आप कंट्रीब्यूटरी नहीं बनोगे. नाउ टेल मी वन मोर थिंग. आई एम होल्डिंग अ फुली पेड अप शेयर. I am holding a fully paid up share of a company. Can you say I am a contributory? Answer is no. No. Why? Because I am holding fully paid up share. I am not liable to contribute towards the assets of the company. Okay. So ये दो points आपको यहाँ पर ध्यान रखने हैं. Then you have the definition of control. Control का definition ऐसा है जिसमें मैं पूरा 2 घंटे का क्लास ले सकता हूँ सिर्फ इसी टर्म को समझाने में. कंट्रोल. But will not spend too much of time in the definition of control because it's not worth in your intermediate level. But some other day I'll share any video of mine which is there on YouTube where I am discussing about the definition of control, so you'll understand the gravity of this definition, right? Plays a very very tricky role. Worst part about the definition of control is that it is not quantified. I don't understand why it goes there, right? It is not quantified. You don't have a number which says that, okay, if you have this much shareholding or if you have this much voting right, you are having the control in the company. It just says that you have control if you have the right to appoint the majority of the directors. Now again, how do you get the right to appoint majority of directors? We will see this when we study the chapter of, right, the right to appoint the majority of directors. We'll see this when we study the definition of the chapter of general meeting. We'll discuss this in future. So when you get the right to appoint the majority of directors, or you get a right to control the management or the policy decisions, right? Or you get this right either individually or along with someone. So two of you, Yash and Ronak, both of you have the right to appoint the majority of the directors in the company. So both of you are controlling the company. If both of you have a right to control the policy decisions, right? The management of the company, what decisions the company is going to take, what decisions the company is not going to take, you say that you are controlling the company. Now this control you can have either directly or the control can be there indirectly. And how do you get this control? You get this control by way of shareholding, or you get this by way of management rights, or by way of shareholder agreement, or by way of voting agreements, or any other manner. So I'll explain you in brief the definition of control here. So we have in the definition of control, we have the power to appoint, or basically the right to appoint majority of directors. So if you get the right to appoint the majority of directors, it is said that you are having the control. Okay. Now, how do you appoint the directors? To appoint the directors, or where the directors are appointed, they are appointed in the general meeting of the company. Right. So every year the company is going to hold the general meeting, which is called as the annual general meeting. In that annual general meeting, the board of directors are appointed. Now, in the general meeting, how do you appoint the directors, or basically how the decisions are taken in the general meeting? The decisions are taken via resolutions. What is resolution? It is a fancy term for the decision, right? आपने decide किया, तो आप ऐसे बोलोगे कंपनीज एक्ट में you have resolved, right? You have resolved that we need to do this, or you say I have decided the company will do this. So company में decision को हम क्या बोलते हैं? Resolution, right? एग्जाम में मत लिखना, but just for your understanding that what is resolution. Resolution is just the decision. Now the resolutions are of two types. One resolution is called as the ordinary resolution and the other is called as the special resolution, right? Now ऐसा नहीं है कि ऑर्डिनरी रेजोल्यूशन खाली बेसिक चीजों के लिए और स्पेशल स्पेशल चीजों के लिए। सबसे बेसिक कंफ्यूजन एंड यही लोगों के दिमाग में मिथ रहता है। इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट। देयर आर सर्टेन डिसीजंस फॉर विच यू नीड टू पास द ऑर्डिनरी रेजोल्यूशन and for certain decisions you need to pass special resolution. It is called as SR, this is called as OR. Now for what matters you need to pass OR, for what matters you need to pass SR, this is mentioned in the Companies Act, right? तो किसके लिए OR पास करोगे, किसके लिए SR पास करोगे? दिस इज मेंशन्ड इन द कंपनीज एक्ट, राइट? कि ये डिसीजन अगर आपको लेना है तो आपको OR पास करना पड़ेगा, ये डिसीजन लेना है तो आपको क्या पास करना पड़ेगा? SR. सो टू अपॉइंट द बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स, if you want to appoint the board of directors, you need to pass ordinary resolution. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? To appoint the board of directors, you need to pass ordinary resolution. अब ordinary resolution पास करने के लिए आपको क्या चाहिए और special resolution पास करने के लिए आपको क्या चाहिए, हम ये दो चीजों को भी समझते हैं। तो ordinary resolution अगर आपको पास करना है तो आपको क्या चाहिए? You need simple majority in favor. You need simple majority in favor. Okay. ना सिंपल मेजोरिटी इन फेवर का क्या मतलब हो जाता है? मोर देन 50%, मोर देन 50%। ध्यान रखना, आई एम नॉट सेइंग 51% और मोर। दिस इज द मोस्ट incorrect answer which people give. It is not 51% or more, it is more than 50%. Now I'll give you an example with which you will be able to understand. So I say in a company there are 1000 members, okay, and I need to pass ordinary resolution. How can I pass? What is the number of members I need in favor? मिनिमम कितने लोग फेवर में ऑर्डर देने चाहिए, मतलब कितने लोग फेवर में वोट करने चाहिए? Ronak is saying 501, right? So how do you got 501? How do you got 501? Because 1000 का 50% is what? Is 500. तो 500 पे तो टाई हो गया, +1 अगर आप कर दो तो you have got majority, right? At 500 you have tie, and this is, with this one addition you get majority. आप बताइए, is this clear? करेक्ट। सो आप 50% +1 बोलो, 500 प्लस बोलो, कुछ भी बोलो, वो करेक्ट है। बट इफ आई राइट 51% तो क्या हो जाएगा? फिर मुझे 501 चाहिए या 510 चाहिए? देन आई नीड 510. सो टेक्निकली आप फिर क्या बोलोगे? दैट विद 501 यू डोंट हैव, सो 51 एंड 501 दोनों में डिफरेंस है, मतलब 11 आपको समझ में? तो दैट्स व्हाई से इट्स more than 50% and not 51% or more. Okay, so this is how you pass the ordinary resolution. How do you pass a special resolution? So for special resolution, you need a higher majority. You need a higher majority, and the higher majority is 75% or 3/4, 75% और मोर. ठीक है, उसमें आप क्या बोलोगे? आपको स्पेशल रेजोल्यूशन यहां पर मिल गया, राइट? नाउ टू अपॉइंट द बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स, राइट? टू अपॉइंट the board of directors, you need what? Company needs to pass the ordinary resolution. Okay, and if you can appoint board of directors, it is said that you are controlling the company, correct? If you can appoint the board of directors, you can say you are controlling the company. So how can you control the company? If you have more than, if you have more than 50% of, if you have more than 50% of, fill in the blanks. If you have more than 50% of, very good, voting rights. Don't write shares, because अगर आपने shares लिखा तो एक गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, और कंपनीज एक्ट में पहले यह गड़बड़ हो गया था. सो आपके पास क्या है? वोटिंग राइट्स है. यू हैव मोर देन 50% of the voting rights. Okay, now how do you get this voting rights? This voting rights you can get by way of your shareholding. ठीक है, आपके पास कंपनी के 501 शेयर्स अकेले आपके पास है, तो आप अकेले ही रेजोल्यूशन पास कर दोगे, है कि नहीं? आपके पास हो सकता है कंपनी के साथ आपने कोई वोटिंग अग्रीमेंट साइन किया हो. आपने बोला कि मेरे पास मोर देन 50% शेयर्स नहीं है, मैं आपकी कंपनी में 40% शेयर्स लगा रहा हूं, बट इन 40% शेयर्स के ऊपर 55% वोटिंग राइट्स होगा. ऐसा हो सकता है? आंसर इज यस. आंसर इज यस, आपको वोटिंग राइट्स मिल गए, करेक्ट? या फिर किसी भी तरीके से, एनी अदर मैनर, एनी अदर मैनर, कैसे भी आप देख लो. ठीक है, तो यहां पर हम क्या बोलेंगे? द कंट्रोल इज एस्टैब्लिश. देन वी कैन से द कंट्रोल इज established. Got it? Now, this voting right, this control, it can be individually, okay, or two people can collectively decide and they can vote, right? दो जने मिलकर करे चाहे इंडिविजुअली करे, एनी. अगर इंडिविजुअली होगा तो विल से this person is controlling the company. If both of them are doing together, then we'll say these two are collectively controlling the company. I suppose now the definition of control should be clear to you. I've explained it in a very simplified manner. Control shall include, again it's an inclusive definition. Control shall include the right to appoint majority of the directors or to control the management or policy decision exercisable by a person or person acting in individually or in concert, directly or indirectly, by virtue of their shareholding or management right or shareholding agreement or voting agreement or any other manner. किसी भी तरीके से आपके पास ये rights आ गया, you get that. But sir, 40% shareholding पे why someone will give a higher voting right? एक ये question आपके दिमाग में आ सकता है? Sir, you said about voting agreement, right? Why someone will give with 40% shareholding, why someone will give, let's say, 51% voting right? Why someone will give? So this could be due to two reasons. So either the shares that I have issued, okay, The shares that I have issued, these shares are DVR. Now what is DVR? Differential voting rights. We will be studying about the voting rights and all. So this is the differential voting rights. So either the share is of differential voting rights, or you have expressly given the voting rights. You have expressly given them the voting rights. Now why you have expressly given them the voting rights? That's because आपके पास एक कोई strategic investor आ रहा है. The person is a strategic investor, right? You are a startup company, you need money. The person who is giving you money, he says that okay, I will take 40% shares, but I need 51% voting rights. So you execute a voting agreement, right? So this is where we say you have executed a voting agreement. You know कि अगर आप नहीं मानोगे तो आपको कोई पैसा नहीं देगा, ठीक है? तो होता है ये आज की डेट में. So this way you get what is differential voting right. We'll see that normally we get one share is equal to one vote. ये आम जिंदगी. डीवीआर जिंदगी क्या होता है? वन शेयर is equal to let's say 3 vote, which means a person holding a DVR share which has got this type of arrangement, if one person is going to vote, it will be counted as 3 persons have voted, right? 3 की शक्ति 1 में DVR, 2 की शक्ति 1 में DVR. गॉट इट? बहुत ही इनफॉर्मल वे में मैंने आपको ये समझाया कंट्रोल का डेफिनेशन, राइट? ये डीवीआर का कॉन्सेप्ट मैंने आपको बहुत ही इनफॉर्मल वे में बताया. विल हैव इट इन डिटेल व्हेन वी स्टडी द शेयर कैपिटल चैप्टर. इज दिस क्लियर यहां तक? Okay, then we have the definition of cost accountant. So all the three professions are here. Cost accountant is again who is a member of Cost and Works Accountant of India. Then you have the definition of court. So court means the high court, district court, or session court, or special court, right? Even the metropolitan magistrate. So ये भी आपके लिए क्या बन जाएगा? Court, right? Not very relevant at your level, not very relevant, but just understand. Then you have the definition of debenture. Now just see the definition of debenture. Tell me broadly if we discuss the definition of debenture. किसको बोलते हैं debenture हम? सर एक डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट होता है. इज डिबेंचर अ सिक्योरिटी? इज डिबेंचर अ सिक्योरिटी? क्या डिबेंचर एक सिक्योरिटी है? आंसर इज यस. डिबेंचर इज अ सिक्योरिटी, करेक्ट. इट इज अ डेट सिक्योरिटी, उधार का पैसा. और डेट का डेफिनेशन अगर आप देखो तो इट्स एन inclusive definition, which means the others can also be included in the definition of debentures. So what does it say? Just read. Debenture includes debenture stock, bonds, or any other instrument of a company evidencing what? Evidencing debt. Now just see, they have used any other instrument. So tomorrow, if I issue you any other instrument, okay, any other security, but which is the nature of debt, then is it called as debenture? Can I say that it is a debenture? Can I say that that is a debenture? I am issuing you a bond. I am issuing you a bond and I say on this bond I will pay you 7% interest. Is bond a debenture? Answer is yes. Why? Because bond is evidencing what? It is evidencing debt. Now what do you mean by evidencing debt? What do you mean by evidencing debt? Debt किसको बोलोगे आप? What is debt? What is debt? Udhar. But how will you define udhar? Debt. Vineet is saying loan. Okay. Kind of loan. Okay. So what's different between loan and kind of loan? But this you are again giving an example of debt. Loan is a kind of debt. Debt is not loan. Right. Yash has answered it correct. That something that has to be paid back. Vineet is saying borrowing from public. So if I borrow privately, is it not a debt? If I come to you and I take 1 lakh rupees from you, so we'll continue tomorrow, right? So sorry. Yeah.